Good morning! I always have to have her breakfast. I've had mine already. It is 9 o'clock and the first panels of the day are at 10 o'clock, so there's plenty of time for her to get back and for us to go to the convention.
Adapted material. I've adapted material in the past. I'm currently involved with a project that if any of you play video games, you may eventually know about this. I can say very little right now other than it's a popular game made in Canada that hopefully will make an outstanding television project, but these things fall apart at the slightest touch most of the time. I've mentioned some shows, but I don't notice any 11-year-olds in the audience. The adaptations that I think work best are, aside from something like Jurassic Park, which was really a screenplay that Bill Craig wrote anyway, I would say the obvious choices for me, 2001 and The Right Stuff, the adaptation of the Tom Wolfe book, because they both took wonderful source material. Those are both two of my favorite books, especially The Right Stuff, and asked, how does this make a great film? Not how do we tell this story, but how does this make a great film experience? 2001 is beautiful. The Right Stuff is extraordinarily entertaining. Nowhere near as accurate as the book is, but that's not really what the film was for. So there are two ideas and stories that I think succeed both on the page and on the screen for different.
My first attempt at adaptation, one of my teachers was telling me, it's like, look, the thing about adaptation is you have to go to your source material and read your source material and make notes about your source material and engrave it upon your heart and love it and then put it in a drawer and try to forget about it so you can make the best project that you can. And it is that difficult balancing act. One of my favorite recent examples is actually watching the opening of the pilot of Game of Thrones, where when you read the opening of the book, it's like we have certain expectations when you start reading a brick of a fantasy novel. And it's like, okay, I'm now being introduced to my characters, and they're going to be on this epic quest, and we're going to be following them, and they're all dead by the opening of chapter 2. And that was like, it's that, holy crap, you know, it's like, this is not messing around, and it sets that up. And they do the exact same thing in the TV show, but the expectations are different, because it winds up coming across like an episode of Law & Order, where we're used to seeing a bunch of no-name people come across something horrible, and then we never see them again. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, oh, would it have been better to do it different? I'm like, but people love those books. You turn into the first 2 minutes, and they've changed the opening. They're not watching minute 3. And so trying to pull that balance out, the way things play differently, and then, so I'm going to stop talking now. Where her sister Jane met the new med student who moved in down the street, whose name is Ben Lee, and they hit it off. And then we show that their characters are following each other on Twitter, and the audience realizes that we've had Bingley and Darcy and Bing's sister Caroline tweeting at each other for weeks. And so that's sort of, you can do that expansion out and world building in ways that you'll see in tie-ins to films or television shows where you'll do an ARG or you'll have some kind of marketing or interactive tie-in. And that's becoming really exciting as a way to do things, especially in adaptation where you're taking, usually from a written form into a visual form. There are things that visual forms do really well, and there are things they don't do as well. So if you can parse out onto different platforms as well, it gives you more tools in your toolbox to create that experience.
Has anyone?
Burning questions, okay. I saw the lovely redheaded lady.
You have human character who turns to be an animal. What do you suggest to avoid? What are the things to avoid?
So the question was, if you have a human character who turns into an animal, what are your suggestions for things to avoid, or what are the pitfalls? Advice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he still thought he was human. He just kept going around telling people he was not a bear, and unfortunately they didn't believe him.
So you kind of took the route of it's a completely superficial transformation. It's still a human at heart. It's about a human brain.
The spell went a little awry. He kept thinking he was telling people, but they're all here growls. He had a rough time.
I have a hard time suspending my disbelief, and this is a personal thing. If I have a human changing into something either very, very small or very, very large, I know it's magic, but for me, that's just not what it was. And again, it's a personal thing. Many people have no problems at all with that much word of the mask go. But for me, that kind of pushes me out of the story if a person abruptly turns into a dragon or a mouse.
It keeps you playing, it keeps the game going, but perhaps in the long run it's more satisfying to win without that kind of hand up. But that can't be done in a legacy game where you're only going to get to run through it once. You can't with regular Pandemic, you can get your teeth kicked in a few times and then have got better at it and have that success. That said, I'm very impressed with Pandemic Legacy. I was sceptical at first, but I imagine we all were. But yes, you only get to play it 15 or 16 times. I confess most of the stuff on my shelves has not been played 15 or 16 times anyway. So, in theory, that looks like a bigger constraint than it is. And the game does do very effectively some big reveals, essentially, during the course of those games that would be practically impossible to do in a game where you've got to look at the components beforehand. So I do think it's an interesting development, but I'm not that keen on this self-adjusting difficulty.
And I took a summer job working at the General Foods Technical Research Center in Tarrytown, New York. They owned a lot of brands, mostly convenience food. They do still own Bird's Eye Vegetables, which is bags of frozen vegetables, or those blocks that you throw in boiling water. I don't know if they still make those. But mostly General Foods is convenience food. And most of its money came from products like this. In the research laboratory, the groups were broken down like a nutrition label. So there was fats and oils, carbohydrates, colors and flavors, proteins, which is where I worked. And proteins was in charge of Jell-O. Everybody knows Jell-O, yes? Yeah. Okay, good. Gelatin dessert. Cool Whip, which is a non-dairy whipped topping. It says that right on the label. Cool Whip, non-dairy whipped topping. And something called shake and bake. I'm saying this because I understand I have an international audience here. Shake and bake is basically breading that you throw in a bag, you put the meat that you want breaded into it, you shake it, and surprisingly bake.
To begin with, how can it help us? In my opinion, there are two more or less categories of tools. The tools that support your thinking, your ideas, and how they allow you to narrow down the things you want to do. And then the writing process in itself, when you really get down in the weeds, get the words on the page, and hopefully have a novel at the end.
Worldcon, Bob Madel. And So that piece of art history is almost closed. Bob is in his late 90s.
So moving away from Worldcon, I have two obsessions on the grounds that if you have two, then neither of them are overarching obsessions. The first is Ian Banks, and the second is Douglas Adams. My Ian Banks collection is mainly books. On the screen there are 55 editions of The Wasp Factory. This is number 56. It's not in the photo because I only got it in a specialist Russian language bookstore here on Tuesday. I'm missing 8, I believe. My Ian Banks is mainly books. My Douglas Adams has branched out into things like costumes from TV and film and props, and I have a 5-foot diameter air car from the TV series currently in our conservatory. My long-suffering wife is in the second row.
Collections exist in a couple of different ways. There are collections owned by, let's call it universities and types of things like that. The largest fanzine collection in the world is the Eaton collection held by UC Riverside, University of California, Riverside, which acquired a ton of fanzines from some of the most active fanzine collectors of the last century. It is unfortunate that the Ron Graham collection, which used to be the best collection in the world, was essentially dispersed. And
if I disagree really profoundly, I write a letter that said, "I'm so sorry, this letter was misdirected," and or "You haven't written to me in a month. I'm really worried. Or you're right, the letter must have been lost."
You did the sweet thing.
I'm very busy.
When we would run into that, one thing that we would do is physically sort of lay out what was going on in the story. Because sometimes, even when you're writing by yourself, you lose track of motivations, you lose track of things that happen. You get oh god, the note cards. So many note cards. And we would lay out, okay, we're arguing about this character and what he would do. Would he do this? Would he do this? And we'd start to lay out the hopscotch of it and figure out if we had missed a trick somewhere. And that kind of helped us visualize it together instead of it's in your head and this is in my head.
Actually, no, I've been lucky in the collaborations I've done. I don't think we've ever run across big difficulties. For the novel, which took a hell of a long time to write because it was done in 2 separate installments, basically. I think that we were able, at least I was able to ask, well, what does the story demand? It's not what would this character do, but what does the story require of this character to do? And we had fairly compatible visions, even though we didn't see the huge starship in the same way at all. That didn't matter because you never have plans. Jean-Louis eventually used some 3D package to model it a little bit. It looks like a brick, and that's not how I saw it. But who cares? Because you never see it from the outside. You see it from within, and its configuration changes anyway. So it shows that there's enough. There's room for, I guess, slight disagreements or disparities of vision within the story you don't notice when you read it. So I've been lucky, but yeah, if I ran into a big argument, I'd probably give in. Because I kind of, do it your way, unless a person said something really stupid and then in the first place, and they were able to do that.
I think what you're saying about the story is very important. It's not in the details like what shape is the starship as much as it is what's the story that we're telling here. And in Tremont 10, which is not just 2 people but about 6, is an extraordinary And then the magic happens, where people start writing the character the same way from story to story, even though we haven't really discussed it. They really do become real. But in terms of arguments and how we resolve them, we have a big Slack board, which is a communication software, and the discussions on the Slack about plot or character or people trying to remember things they've forgotten, or something that would make the best scene, but in fact does not fit the plot, are phenomenal. They're very funny. I think part of it, too, is this, you have to trust people and you have to respect them, too. You know, if you think someone's basically an idiot, it's not good to collaborate with them. And you also have to recognize that different people have different strengths, which is something we haven't touched on, but we're all very aware of. You know, somebody else does great movie description and you do great dialogue. And, you know, sometimes you'll actually ask people to come in and tweak you a little bit. But on Slack, people argue and people make jokes, and usually it ends up pretty amicably. And if not, there's always the higher authority, which is, you know, the actors.
Another day done, another dinner ready to be consumed, another bunch of footage ready to put together and post on YouTube again. Mom and I made the decision to not go to the Hugos, to see them live. I mean, we're gonna watch them on the internet. The fact that they are available to watch on the internet is reason number one why we're not going. Bye!